You know, when I look around at all the entrepreneurs who are grinding it out, spending 70 to 80 hours per week growing their business, you have to ask yourself the question, at what cost? Hi, my name's Tim Uchuk, and in this podcast, we're going to be exploring the tools, tactics, and strategies for crushing it and scaling your business without making the ultimate sacrifice of your time and freedom. Hey, what's up everyone? Tim Uchuk here, and I'm just out and about. We're headed to Hawaii in a couple days, and I'm just getting some stuff taken care of before we leave. We'll be gone for 2 weeks. We're going to take the kids, and I haven't been to Hawaii since we were married a couple years ago, so really looking forward to that. And I thought, while I'm on the road here, I will just record a quick episode for you and share a kind of behind the scenes in terms of a conversation I had with my sales manager. We were kind of celebrating some wins looking back over the last quarter, and we're looking forward and just talking about how to maintain that momentum looking forward over the next week and month and quarter ahead. And so the three kind of buckets that I wanted to share with you are really strategies. I think of these three things as kind of my secret weapons when it comes to just making the most of every day and every week and every quarter. And the first one I want to talk to you about is constraints. And I chatted about this a few episodes ago, I think, when I talked about the 80-20 principle and how you can leverage that, which is essentially a constraint where you say, what are the 20% of things that are yielding, 80% of the results. And so you can look at the 20% of your customers. You can look at the 20% of your activities, how you're spending your time. What are the things that drive the biggest bang for your buck in terms of how you manage your time, right? And so that's a useful constraint. And another way to approach it, another way to use a constraint is to say, as a limiter, if I only could do 3 things today, what would they be? If I could only get 3 things done. And so if you've got a list of like 10, 20, 30, 40 things, it forces you to, in a really simple and quick way, to pick and prioritize and order it. And because you're doing it and you're just picking 3, you don't have to go through the tedious exercise of rank ordering everything in your life. You just say, okay, if I could only get 3 things done, this is what they would be. This is what it would be. And you can take the same rule to your week, right? If I could only get 3 things done this week, what would they be? And so this is a example of using a constraint to identify and decipher things that you should be paying attention to, right? And if you provide a constraint, of course, why are you making this decision? Why are you bringing these things to the top of your list? It's because if you're minimizing your quantity, right? The only option you have is to increase the value or the yield of the things that you're selecting. So you're forced to make that decision, and you're forced to identify those things that have value. And so number one is the constraint question, and using constraints in general in terms of how you strategize within your business and how you plan out your activities and your time. And it's just a really powerful way to quickly and easily help you to focus and get focused. And often I'll do that when I feel like, oh, I've got a million things on my plate. I feel like I'm getting spread in a million directions. You need to kind of stop and realize you're just one human being. So what can you do? Well, you can only really do one thing at a time. Separate from that, you can let go and delegate. So you've got a couple options, right? You can put some stuff on ice and focus on the most important things in front of you, or you can say, okay, I can't get this done, but I know somebody else who can, and I'm going to let go and delegate it out. But the constraint question allows you to really get at that. And like I say, it's something that I use. I call the 3x3 strategy, and I do it quite often when I feel overwhelmed. And even in my weekly planning strategy, using the productivity funnel tool that I teach, that's one of the productivity patterns is you minimize your work in process, and the planning for the week, you literally are just, okay, if I could only pick 3, what are they? And you bring them into your week. And so number one is constraints, using constraints. This is the first strategy that I wanted to share with you. Second strategy that I wanted to share with you that we were talking about is the power of small kaizen. Small kaizen. Kaizen is a Japanese term, and it means to change for the better, is the literal translation. I think if I'm remembering correctly, I lived in Tokyo for 2 years in my early 20s. So kaizen, rough translation, is change for the better. And it has been, I posted, I think a few months ago, if you look at the most successful car manufacturers in history, let's see if I can drum it up, but if you look at Toyota and you look at Toyota's profitability, there is no other manufacturer that comes anywhere near Toyota in terms of their profitability. Why? Because they've mastered this thing called small kaizen. And so what they've essentially done, change for the better, is they have unleashed small improvements and essentially in a very decentralized way. So essentially giving everybody not only the authority, but empowering them to fix things that are broken, little things, focusing on little things. And they average, last time I checked and looked into it, it was something obscene for having like 200,000 plus workers, 7 implemented small improvements per employee. I think it's per year. So if you think about that number of improvements across all the functions, across all the departments, across all of the geographies, they are just ratcheting up relentlessly every day. All those little areas, all those little leaks are getting plugged. And so small kaizen is incredible. And so I was talking to my sales manager, and we were talking about, he's super excited because every day it's like, okay, what is a small experiment that we can run? What is a small area that we can improve today? Really small. And then we can, when we're going to be meeting again, let's check in. If it doesn't work, that's fine. What did we learn? And then we take that learning and we implement that. We improve it again. And if it does work, we've just gotten 1% better. We've moved ahead an inch. And small kaizen is so much more powerful than innovation, big innovations, big innovative steps. Because it's these small little improvements that, especially when you're like scaling, it's the small issues that amplify and create big problems. And so looking for those small little problems and just building that muscle of identifying them and just fixing little things every day and getting into that small kaizen mindset. And I can tell you that in my own business, on the so I was talking about my coaching business. I was talking to my sales guy in our coaching business, Perfect Week. But in my manufacturing equipment distribution business, when we first started implementing a continuous improvement small kaizen program, we hit over 200 improvements implemented within the first year, or close to it. 200 tiny improvements. A couple examples. Um, one of them was we kept getting asked for our Wi-Fi password in our customer lounge when customers are waiting. So we just posted the Wi-Fi password. That's an example of a tiny improvement. In our software, little things that were buggy, little ways that we could eliminate redundancies, standardize some of our paperwork. All these little things started to add up in the shop, and literally we hit around 200. Can you imagine 200 little improvements in your business? And so this is a mindset that it's a muscle that's developed because you have to, there's a switching cost, and people naturally and inherently don't like change, right? So you have to kind of embrace the change, and that's why it's literally translated change for the better. It's not just change, it's change for the better. We're taking all those little frustrations, the things that are bugging us, all those little thorns, and we're just fixing them one at a time, all the little ones, and they just start to stack up. So um, small kaizen is one of those things that I think has contributed to, I could probably trace back the majority of any successes that I've had in my life and my business to small kaizen and just making things 1% better. So that's number 2. The third thing we talked about was just around this notion of business and life. It's a marathon, not a sprint, and there really is no destination, right? There's no moment. I can think back to some major achievements that I've had, like personally. I remember financially, one of my achievements or one of my goals way back when was to be able to make $1,000 a day, $1,000 a day. And I can remember when I finally achieved that, it was like, man, that feels good. That's really cool. Okay, what's next? And so it felt like base camp. It was like the new base camp, and there's really no kind of destination because us humans are like hardwired for just constantly, especially entrepreneurs, for just growing and always changing. And so how do you deal with that, potential disappointment where you set a goal and then you reach the goal and you're like, oh, okay, what's next? And so what we were talking about was rituals. And in fact, this trip to Hawaii is an example of a ritual, where I always need something to look forward to. And so I have some big things and I have some little things. And the little things I like to have, each day, something to look forward to. And oftentimes it's like a small piece of chocolate after dinner, like really small. Or I go and buy like some of my favorite, drinks. What is it called? There's a couple drinks like bubbly. I don't know if you heard of that. Not alcoholic, but just drinks to kind of reward myself. And they're really kind of little, these rewards, but it's a way to. It's kind of like, just rewarding yourself, just like a. I hate to say it, like a dog with a biscuit or a treat. We're not much different in that respect, and so I like to put my head down, use the constraints, figure out the stuff that's going to move the needle, and when I get those done, I reward myself in little ways through these rituals. And when I look forward to them and I allow myself to enjoy these little things, it just makes the journey kind of fun. And then I have big things, and Hawaii is one of those big things where I always like to have a vacation in the books, for example, for our family. So I can look at a calendar and we kind of count down and we enjoy the anticipation, which is kind of half the fun when you're planning a vacation. And we'll look at like YouTube videos of Hawaii with the kids and start talking about the things we're going to be doing. And I like to always have something like that for the family to like get excited about and anticipate and look forward to. And then again, you're like when you're working your butt off, you know that there's like a tangible finish line, and you've got like a countdown between where you are and when that event is going to occur, and you can look forward to it and just get excited and strengthen that muscle of celebrating and taking breaks for yourself and recharging your batteries. And so rituals is the other thing, and to provide rituals for yourself. And I've got rituals for like our teams as well when it comes to celebrating some big milestones. So some financial milestones. For example, I will often buy myself a nice bottle of wine, and I'll force myself to look at that nice bottle of wine until I achieve that, obscene. I like to set kind of obscene targets, and I'll set an obscene target, and then when I hit that watermark, we celebrate. And we're not big drinkers. We'll spend like 3 nights, my wife and I, probably drinking a bottle of wine. But it's the symbolic nature of the thing. So I tend to always have one bottle of wine that's no touchy. I can't touch it until I achieve whatever that target is, and it just makes it fun. And then you can kind of reward yourself. That's my dog biscuit. That's my dog treat. Anyways, that's what I wanted to share with you, just because it was top of mind. We were talking about it today. We were talking about constraints, how you can use constraints to just improve your focus and the quality of the things that you're working on, that you're paying attention to. Constraints is number one. Small kaizen, change for the better, is number two. And then number three is rituals. So giving yourself things to look forward to, small things and big things. So small things like, if you're into dark chocolate, that's one of the things I do, or just going out for like a treat of myself, or my wife and I going for like a nice dinner. Although that's something I don't really hold off on. So more little, small little treats, but yeah, the rituals. And then like vacations, always having something to look forward to. And it could just be like a 3-day weekend, right? Like we went to Victoria a couple months ago, and we just went for 2 nights, and we stayed in this nice hotel that kind of looked like a castle. And so our kids thought we were staying in a castle, and we look forward to it and all that kind of stuff. So big and small rituals is the other thing. But anyways, I have to get back to my errands. Hope that was useful, and I will catch you guys in the next episode. Hey, Tim Uchuk here, and real quick, if you enjoyed this podcast episode, if you could take a couple quick seconds to give it a rating, it would be very much appreciated. And secondly, if you're looking for more tools and strategies on how you can crush it in life and business, just head on over to bookwithtim.com, where I've put together a free case study which shows you how to unlock unprecedented freedom today by using the 2 power levers. Just head on over to bookwithtim.com. Until next time, wishing you success and freedom in your business. Cheers.